Hey guys, Toolman Tim here. Welcome back to the workshop where we build business, create community, find freedom, and share success. It's Thursday night, which means we're not normally live, but here we are. This is taking the place of our normal Sunday night live stream. Since it's Halloween, I thought we'd move it to a more advantageous time and evening. So one thing you're going to notice is a slight bit of rebranding with the live stream. We're going to move away from the name of Talking Tools, and it's going to be branded as the Workshop or the Workshop Live. You can call it whatever you want, but there's just so many names kicking around. I'll deal with this a little bit after, let you know. Excuse me. Fighting a cold again tonight, guys, so I really apologize if anybody's out there and you want to holler at me. I'll do my best not to cough into the mic. So, so if you guys follow me on social, you will know that early this week, I posted a request for 100. I gave everybody, it was kind of a fun little exercise. I gave everybody a metaphorical $100 to spend and up to 5 items or less to put together a kit for either a brand new prepper or a young adult who's just moving out on their own and might not know what exactly they need. So tonight, I want to talk about that. Hey, John, just seeing you in there. Sorry about that, guys. Couple of technical difficulties tonight, so it's going to be a good night. I know it is. I love having this. So first off, before we dive into the main topic, a couple quick things. If you're watching this on the replay, you need to know more about who this ugly feller is up here in front of you. You can always check me out at toolmantim.co. That's toolmantim.co. We got a weekly podcast, a monthly newsletter, and the shop over there. Most of you guys know about that anyway, but there's a ton of cool products in there that I recommend that I've used in my handyman business. So if you're looking for recommendations, check that out. 2 quick announcements for you guys. First off, I got to say thank you to James over at the Preppers Broadcasting Network. They had me on Preppers Live Monday night, and what an awesome show it was. We had a solid 2 hours where we talked about entrepreneurship, home construction, preparedness, give my story. It was just an awesome time. They seemed to like me enough that they kind of asked me that if I wanted to start putting out a more regular podcast, that sound like there was quite a bit of interest there and carrying it over on their network. So awesome. I love spanning out and, interacting with new communities. I really didn't know who they were before they reached out to me. And there's some awesome people over there, guys. So if you want to check out, they've got like 14 podcasters with a whole bunch of different podcasting shows. So it's really cool. And number 2, like I said, we're going to rebrand this a little bit. So it's going to become the Workshop or the Workshop Live. We're going to split it. My idea is going forward this winter is to have 2 live streams a week, Thursday night and Sunday night. So if you can't make it to one, you can always make it to the other. Sunday night's going to be more for interviews, having guests on, having my wife on to chat about things around the house, that kind of stuff. And Thursday night is going to be me talking about preparedness. I really want to start out a series on home maintenance and preparedness, go through all the different systems of the house, that kind of stuff. So if you guys are interested in that, let me know. It'd be a huge expansion on what I talked about the other night on the Preppers Live with the Preppers Broadcasting Network. And the podcast is going to go to 3 days a week. I'm not going to be doing any more content. I'm always going to be putting out 5 pieces a week. But the Thursday and Sunday live streams are going to be 2 episodes. And the Saturday workshop weekend workshop is going to be its own shorter episode. So if you guys are more into the audio end of things, that'll be an option as well. So anyway, let's dive in, guys. It was a really cool week. So I had an ulterior motive for doing this episode tonight. My wife and I are looking at taking about $100. We have 3 adult kids, and they're not going to watch this live stream. I'm sure they're not. So I'm not going to give it away. But the reason I put the social media post out the way I did was I didn't want them to know that it was about them. We're looking at putting together around that idea of $100. I wouldn't call it a housewarming. I brought my kids up to know about preparedness, but we wanted to spend a little bit of the Christmas budget this year on putting together kind of a kit around the idea of preparedness for our 3 young adult kids who all live on their own in their own houses. So I asked a bunch of different people, and I got a metric shit ton of really cool answers. And I thought we would maybe chat a little bit about the idea of two things, putting together a kit for kids who maybe don't know that they need to be prepared or maybe can't afford it. And also, I got a really cool question that if I have time, I'll answer it at the end tonight from a brand new prepper, an adult, but somebody who was just getting into it. And I don't know about you guys, but when I first got started, I had a lot of help from a lot of people, a lot of cool questions, a lot of people that were very patient with me in answering a lot of my questions. And, it would be nice to be able to give back. So I thought, why not do this little exercise of what exactly are some essential items that we can put together in a kit for, like I said, young adults or new preppers. So a few thoughts when I first got started in, but most, especially for young people and new people, the biggest thing are personal disasters. If we're putting together a kit, if you give them a damn Geiger counter, a radioactive mask, and a Faraday cage, they're just going to laugh you out of the house and be like, get out of here. That's not practical. It makes no sense. It's not worth it. So to me, I thought the first thing that a fellow should look at in a preparedness kit for somebody new is making sure that it deals with a personal disaster, something that actually could affect them. And we'll go through a whole list of them as we work our way through. But one thing I know about not always new preppers, but young people in general is that they're usually on a really tight budget and they really can't afford a whole hell of a lot of investment to put into preparedness. So it's really cool to be able to, help them out. And I thought this would be fun. And I got some really good gift ideas from different people. And at the end, I'll share with you guys the 5 items I kind of settled on for the preparedness kit we're going to put together for our kids. So hopefully they don't watch this, but if they do, that's okay too. So for me, the focus of the items in either instance were I needed them to be super practical. So it's something that a kid might not think about buying. I say a kid, they could be mid-20s. Hey, Chris, how are you? You didn't miss a whole lot. Couple of cool little announcements about two live streams a week and that kind of stuff, but nothing too serious. First 5 minutes, it's all there. But we're just chatting away about putting together a gift box, a Christmas gift box for a new prepper or young people who moved out on their own, first off. So for me, the main focus of these items, the things that I wanted to deal with were they had to be super practical. So it had to be something that, kids aren't very practical. My oldest would love to buy, hey, Greg, how are you? They would love to buy, cell phone accessories or Funko Pops, but they're never going to buy themselves a top quality can opener. So things need to be super practical, not overly expensive. To me, my budget was $100. And so if I could get 5 $20 items, that would be great because you can get good quality if you look around and price things. And they needed to be something that, I'm going to use the word young people, but you can interchange young people and new preppers here, but something that they wouldn't necessarily think about buying. So real practical stuff like a battery pack, like a backup battery pack for a cell phone. Those are great. So then I'm like, okay, what are the personal emergencies that most people living out on their own are going to deal with? Things that are probably very common or at least, could happen, and things that they're probably not giving any real thought to on a day-to-day basis. And of course, for me, you guys know I'm passionate about backup power. And so power outages was a big one. The next one to me was being able to fix something or assemble something. Another one was vehicle emergencies. They all have their own vehicles. And again, the last thing that most young people like to spend money on is preventative maintenance on a vehicle. So it's always, hey, Dad, come and get me. I'm broke down on the side of the road, or I have a flat tire, or I don't have a snow brush. Can I borrow one? Sorry, guys. The throat is just not working good tonight, so I might have to sip on the coffee a little bit more for you. So yeah, vehicle emergencies. Another one is hurting themselves. So this whole list, hey, Jaggy, how are you? This is my brother from another mother from across the pond in Scotland. Nice to see you. It must be like 4 a.m. over there. But he said, awesome idea, Tim, to give someone a preparedness Christmas gift. What a good way to introduce them to prepping. And it absolutely is. And it doesn't, like I said, it doesn't need to be a friggin' Faraday cage and a Geiger counter, so we all come across to some crazy prepper. These are practical ideas that we can put together that people are actually going to use, so that when their own little personal shit hits the fan, the power goes out and they have to think about it, 2 a.m. in Scotland, I thought so. They're going to say, man, you know what? Being prepared is a good thing. Having a little backup power emergency kit is great. Having a vehicle emergency kit is great. Having a well-stocked medicine cabinet or first aid kit is a really good idea. And for the record, most of the suggestions that I put in here because these are the things that my adult kids are constantly coming to me to either borrow or say, Dad, I'm all out of this. Do you have any of these? So I thought, you know what? If my 3 young adult kids are borrowing these things or always in constant need of these things, then I'm sure a lot of other people are too. So it was a good way for me to kind of form together what we can put together in one of these kits. Oh, and the other one, another kind of common emergency, maybe a little bit less, but is some sort of fire emergency. And I'm actually going to talk about everybody on social, the different suggestions that they came up with, because it was just some really awesome products and ideas that came up. And so I'm going to put together, a theoretical kit for each of these situations that a new young person or a new prepper might find themselves in, because a lot of people, new preppers or young people, they don't even know where to start. So these little kits will be a good jumping off point for them. It's not going to cost a whole lot. And if there's one thing I hate, it's I shouldn't say always, but pre-made kits are usually junk. If you ever go to like a trade show or something and they're like, oh, here's a free automotive safety kit, and they give it to you, and the jumper cables are made out of like 18 gauge wire that's going to burn up the first time you put any bit of charge through them, or they're going to crack in half when the weather gets too cold. They're just junk. And they always fill them. How about those little giveaway first aid kits? They're going to give you, 17 tablets of some weird aspirin that you're never going to use. And they're going to give you 6 Band-Aids that are made out of plastic that wouldn't stick to, a glue factory. They're just, to me, I love the idea of putting these together personally. And there's a few reasons, but number one, your money goes further. I watched a review last night and I'm eyeing up the Milwaukee Packouts. You guys know I'm a big Tool fan, obviously, and I'm a big DeWalt fan, but I love the Milwaukee Packouts. It's a whole modular storage system, and they came out with a first aid kit that fits into those. Yes, exactly, Jaggy. Yeah, stealing my thunder here, buddy. You reading my notes? But Jaggy says, make your own kit so it'll be cheaper and better. And it's true, because this Milwaukee Packout was awesome, but it was like $70. And the whole time I'm watching it, I'm like, I don't like the selection of products that were in it. It seemed undersupplied for what you paid. It was basically, you're paying $70 for a fancy Milwaukee storage kit. And then they kind of, as an afterthought, threw in a bunch of first aid stuff. And of course it meets the requirements, but the pre-made kit to me was just, it doesn't work. So putting together a kit like this, number one, your money's going to go further. So like Jaggy said, cheaper. So if you go and buy yourself a bulk package of, say, Band-Aids, for instance, you're going to get way more than those individually wrapped and packaged things that you're going to get. At the old hardware store where I used to work at, we used to have to buy, hey, Joseph, how are you, buddy? Nice to see you. We used to have to get aspirin in an individual package. It had 2 pills in it, and I want to say they were like 50 cents a piece. So we used to go to Costco and buy a 500 bottle of Tylenol and leave it in the first aid kit. Not sure if that was legal or not, but it was way, way cheaper. So putting together these kits yourself, number one, your money's going to go further. Just like Jaggy says, cheaper and better. Number two, you can custom the kit to the recipient. So you can say, okay, well, maybe this person has, I don't know, I was going to say asthma or something. Like, you could absolutely focus that first aid kit on something that person, maybe they're, what do you want to call it? Accident prone, for instance. And, they tend to cut themselves a lot. So maybe you're going to give them some extra Band-Aids, or, maybe they don't have a car. So an automotive kit, it's not really going to cut the mustard for them. But what I like about this is you can absolutely customize the kit to the recipient. And also you can maybe find out what their interests are and form it around that as well. And number three, what I really like about putting these kits together, this idea is, and it might sound kind of cheesy, but it shows that you're thoughtful. It shows that you actually spend some time to put together a kit for somebody that's either a friend, an acquaintance, or a family member, and they'll think, wow, this is really neat. It actually shows that you put some thought into it. So, like I said, all of these potential kits were things that my adult kids would come by and borrow all the time. Batteries are one, toilet paper is another one, Band-Aids are another one. So I thought I would put together some of these different kits. And if, anybody has any ideas of things that you think should go in these kits, throw it up there in the comments for me while we're going along, because I threw all these together. These were, again, based on a lot of the suggestions from everybody on social this week. And it was awesome. People loved the video. It got like 3,000 views on Instagram, which was kind of cool. But again, I just wanted to put these little things together as kind of a thought exercise for us. So the first one would be a vehicle emergency kit. And actually, my kids are fairly well versed in this, but any prepper or anybody who calls themselves a prepper that doesn't have a good quality pair of booster cables might want to think about it. I mean, that's not a slam on anybody, but having a good set of booster cables can get you out of a ton of trouble, and you can end up helping a whole lot of other people as well. Jaggy, I got to read that. Did you ever get anything back from your kids who borrowed them? I bet not. Oh, you know what? Extension cords. That's another one. They borrow extension cords all the time. I think they eat them for lunch. Well, I did get my goof off back, but it was empty. So I guess there's that. But I got to say, I'm pretty bad too. When I was first married, I borrowed my dad's pickaxe, and the kids took it and left it out in the road, and somebody stole it. And my dad never got his pickaxe back, and it was his father's pickaxe. So I'm just as bad. I think we all are a little bit. So as far as, I guess I have 5 different kits that you could put together. I thought it'd be fun to throw them all together as a theme, because just, ripping and pulling a bunch of random different ideas together, you might get them some good stuff, but having a theme like a vehicle emergency kit or a tool kit allows you to kind of focus that money on something that really helps. Yeah. Oh, Chris. Yeah, this is a good one. I like this. Mr. Dixon says, if one of my kids borrows something, I generally go and buy another one. That is a true story. Or if I know my kid needs one, I'll go buy a new one and then give them my old one as well. But it's true, because we love our kids. I love my kids, and they know I love them. But absolutely, if they borrow something, there's a 75 to 95% chance that I'm not getting it back. And if I do, it's in 2 pieces. So there's that. So vehicle emergency kit number 1, booster cables. Like I said, a good long, I always told my kids, buy the most expensive pair of booster cables you can get. And for the most part, they've done it. Olivia's really good at that, but you need to have them, or maybe a booster pack now. Now I picked one up a year ago at Costco, and I don't know what the hell's wrong with it, but I can't get this damn booster pack to work. So I think it's defective, but it's well past its return date. So I'm going to pick up a new one, because I want to have one on hand, but I also want to be able to do a test and review for them. A small little first aid kit. Honestly, I don't know what exactly you want to keep in a first aid kit for an automotive thing, but mainly batteries, maybe some Tylenol, some tweezers, some floss, all the stuff that you need in a car when you're driving around and you're thinking, oh yeah, I just got some peanut caught in my teeth and I can't get it out, and I'm not going to be stopped anywhere. And kids never think to buy that kind of stuff. A battery pack cell phone charger. Those are great. We keep one of them in our car, but again, new preppers, young kids, they either don't think about it or don't have the money to spend on it. A small little pack of snacks. And for us up here, Chris, you'll appreciate this one, but a really good quality ice scraper / snow brush. Know your Joe. Yes. And that is funny. I forgot to mention a tire repair kit. You guys hear me talk about them all the time, but I forgot to mention it. I forgot to put it in my show notes. So thank you. Now that's something that would require a bit of skill. And I've got a section at the end about things that are free. We can take the time and teach them, or share some ideas, or share some videos, that kind of stuff with them. But yes, a tire repair kit, absolutely. And they're cheap. Like those Victor ones are under $10 and they are great. But again, what good's a tire repair kit if you don't know how to repair your tires? So yes, up here, So another item that my kids somehow seem to lose on a regular basis is a good quality snow brush. But they're not the only ones. I also take my snow brushes and I set them in my garage in the spring, and they manage to disappear through the summer. And that's not them, that's me. I don't know where they go. So I usually have to buy some new ones too, but a good quality snow brush that isn't going to go missing. Jaggy said, have a first aid kit, med kit for you and another for any accidents you may come across. Never use your... Oh, okay. So like 2 is 1, 1 is none type thing. So have a second one so you never have to dip into your personal. I really like that. Is I can't. I was going to take a screenshot, but I'm on my PC. So anyway, I use a windshield cover because I don't like scraping. You know, John, that is something I've never really thought of. And I might have to look into that. We don't get a ton of snow here, but we do end up with a lot of frost and a lot of ice on our wind. Well, mainly frost. And I really do hate scraping too. A lot of times what I do is I hop in the car and I use my windshield washer to melt the ice and just keep spraying it until it warms up. But yes, I love that idea, John. I'm going to put that in the notes afterwards so I try to remember. Folding shovel. That's not something I keep, but I know some people like them, especially if you live in, like, say, Colorado or somewhere where you get a lot of snow. You got to dig yourself out of a snowbank once in a while. And hand warmers. I love hand warmers. I don't know. Lost a bunch of weight last winter and my hands seem to be cold all the friggin' time now, but hand warmers are great. And in a pinch, you can take them and throw them down in your boots. Know your Joe said this is another great one for automotive. 12-volt high volume compressor, kind of expensive, but nice. And you guys know, again, probably that I'm a big DeWalt fan and I love my DeWalt inflation station. Even got a video coming up on it this month. But one of these are actually, even the expensive ones are cheaper, of course, than the DeWalt one. And yes, those are great. A nice 12-volt high capacity compressor along with a tire repair kit. And they can get themselves by, get themselves out of a lot of emergencies. But again, they need the skills. So if you're going to give this kind of stuff, take some time and force them to learn it. And, my daughters especially, they love to learn this kind of stuff. So yeah, I just need to sometimes maybe take a little more time and teach them. I'm guilty of that too. So automotive was the first one. Second preparedness kind of Christmas kit that I thought about was a tool kit. And this one came from my buddy Ryan Collette. And there's a good chance he'll be watching this on the replay. So if he does, here's a shout out for him. But he's a man. I've talked about him before. He's a hardworking dude who started a handyman business as well. And his idea was a whole bunch of different tools. And to me, that is a godsend as well. My daughter Grace loves tools. I give her my old don't tell anybody, but my old Milwaukee drill before I moved on to bigger and better yellow and black things, i.e. DeWalt. And she uses it all the time. And I bought her some nice tools, but the rest of them, not so much. So a really good idea could be a toolkit. Jaggy says, a big trash bag can also be used as a survival sleeping bag. If had to sleep in the car with a blanket, that extra layer can make a difference. Just don't pull it over your head and tie it shut. But yeah, no, that's actually a really cool idea, Jaggy. It also would double if you've ever done something stupid like I have and gone in the house at night with the windows down and ended up, your seat getting absolutely soaked and then needing to go somewhere. You can throw that down on there, and it might not be the most comfortable, but at least you won't end up with a wet butt when you're done. But that's an awesome one. And that's basically free, or at least cheap anyway. Ooh, almost spilled my coffee, guys. Sorry. There, what's John say? It's amazing how warm a vehicle can stay with a survival candle. Well, a few years ago, my wife had to spend a couple of nights in the hospital in Edmonton, about 3 hours away. And since I was by myself, I didn't want to spend the nearly $100 a night for a hotel. We had a Dodge Grand Caravan at the time, so I put down some memory foam in the back of it, and I slept my ass 2 nights in a row in the parking garage there. Nobody said anything. I just slid in the back, slept, and then in the morning I'd get back up, drive around, and go. And I would turn the car on before I'd go to sleep, let it run for a few minutes, and then turn it off. And to me, and it was, by the way, it was -20 those 2 nights. And I loved it. All I had was a couple of comforters, and I was absolutely happy. So yeah, and so even without a survival candle, cars can stay fairly warm, especially if you're a big burly man like me. But yes, a survival candle absolutely can warm up and make a vehicle toasty. So I'm going to add, while we're going here, guys, I'm going to add garbage bag, survival candle. I'm going to put these notes out somewhere when we're done too. And you can heat up a coffee with a survival candle too. That is always thinking. There's my coffee cup tonight. Whoops. Fluent in sarcasm. Just ask my wife. She'll tell you. Know Your Joe says, Cobalt has some nice toolkits that go on sale for Black Friday. And you know what? I kind of like that Cobalt brand a little bit. Some of the stuff I've seen recently. Now, one thing I will say is we have my, I wouldn't call it favorite, but we have Crappy Tire up here, another name for Canadian Tire. And they have Mastercraft and JobMate, which are kind of like, JobMate's just a cheap little brand. And sometimes they'll have like a, 7,000 piece toolkit for like $13 or something. And it's like 4 good tools and the rest is 1/8 inch metal bits, but it's not bad. It's okay. But again, I love the idea of putting together a kit myself. So toolkit, and a lot of this part of this section is thankful to Ryan Collette, but a multi-bit screwdriver. I love my Milwaukee. It's a little more expensive, but you can get some no-name ones. A hammer. First off, a multi-bit screwdriver. My mom and dad have the same one that they've had in their junk drawer since probably the 70s. It's an old green one, and it works. And I don't know how many screws that thing's used. And it's not like you go through them all the time. So if you get your kids or a new prepper one of those, that's a buy it for life kit or a tool for sure. And we're going to add, Jaggy says, remember spare fuses and bulbs. Yes. Man, you guys are good. And Greg, man, you guys are all full of great ideas tonight. This is awesome. Greg, yeah, Princess. Oh, yeah. Now, this is one of the few things that Canada has that America doesn't. This would be the closest thing we have to a Harbor Freight. But Greg Arcade, our resident country singer, says Princess Auto has some really good cheap kits too. And they do. I was just there 2 days ago. I went up there to pick up my Big Buddy heater, and they didn't have one, so I had to go to Crappy Tire and get it instead. But yes, so Princess Auto, and I'm sure for my American counterparts, Harbor Freight would have some pretty good kits as well. But yeah, I love, and honestly, for anything that, somebody that's just moving out on their own or just getting into this kind of stuff, any of these inexpensive kits are going to be super sufficient for a long time. Like, I'm a big fan of buy it for life, but I'm also not going to spend $200 on a socket set for a 22-year-old who might lose 3 pieces tomorrow, So there's a balance between quality and price and volume, the amount of stuff that we can actually get for someone like this. So toolkit, multi-bit screwdriver, a hammer. You know what? For something they're going to use, I would probably end up getting them something with a metal handle or a fiberglass handle, simply because it's going to last forever. Because you tend to use a hammer for anything, beating on things, knocking things over, the whole lot. So buy them a decent hammer. It doesn't have to be expensive, but just a good quality. And Greg says, buddy, I had to get a long bar to break our oil plug. Walked out with so much stuff I didn't need. Yeah, that is absolutely true. I actually forced myself to leave my shopping cart behind because I was like, they didn't have what I went for. And I'm like, oh, I just wanted to buy a bunch of stuff. They had Brake Clean on sale for $2.99. But I just said, nope, I only came up for my buddy heater. I got to walk away. And my wife wasn't with me. So a lot of times I feel a little more guilty shopping if she's not with me. So I did pretty good. So a cheap cordless drill. Like I said, Cobalt has some stuff. I believe they have some of those cordless, probably really inexpensive. A socket set. And again, that's somewhere where you can buy just like a 20 or 30 piece kit for $9.99 on Amazon or Harbor Freight or Crappy Tire, because, somebody new like that are they're not going to wear that stuff out. They're not going to be a mechanic with it. Jaggy says, let's see, add gloves using a metal handle in wet or cold gloves gives better grip and your hand won't freeze holding it. Very, very true. Yes. Let's put some warm gloves in there too. Now I got a kit that's going, 6 miles long, but this is great. And Chris says a good pair of vice grip pliers is a must in any toolkit. And My next two items were adjustable wrench and plier/vice grip. So absolutely. Like if I had, needle nose pliers are great. Use them for so much stuff, but vice grips are a little more versatile. They're more apt to round something off, but they adjust a little more, they grab a little more, and it's something that people like using. And an adjustable wrench, make sure you get it in metric though, because you want to be able to open all those metric bolts with an adjustable wrench. There's a good little Toolman humor there for you. And I put a roll of duct tape in the toolkit as well, because my kids, I don't want to say constantly. I make them sound like they're always coming to get things. But one of the things they do come to ask me about sometimes is, Dad, do you have any tape? And they know I love my tuck tape. So then they take a roll of tuck tape, and I buy it in bulk because I know they're going to take the tuck tape. So they take it. Or a good roll of Gorilla duct tape, something like that. Because again, they always have uses for it, and somebody's going to come and borrow it from you anyway. So you might as well empower them and give them a good roll of good quality tape. Because if they're going to buy it, they're going to go to Dollarama or Dollar Tree, and they're going to buy the stuff that's $1 a roll. And there's exactly 3 feet on the roll, and 2.5 feet is dry, and the other half a foot doesn't stick to anything. So, get them a good roll of duct tape. Buy a good $5 or $10 roll and give it to them, a big bulk pack even, and it's going to last them forever. And they're going to have 100 different uses. And every time they pull out that duct tape, they're either going to think of red, green, or they're going to think of you. So the next one is a blackout kit. And this is one, duct tape better than any Band-Aid. Ain't that the truth? And it works good. Electrical tape too. I don't know why carpenters always, John says kids are freeloaders. Glad I didn't have any. Well, at least they'll be able to, come and give me sponge baths when I'm 85 years old in the retirement home, I guess. But yeah, I love them to death. I just use these guys as an example because it's my life, and it's my personal experience of what I've worked through. So I figured, if my guys are, in need of some of this stuff, then I'm sure there's 100 other, people who are either first moved out on their own or new to preparedness that might need some of this stuff too, right? But for me, I think a blackout kit would be one of the best bangs for a buck, or bangs for your buck, because power outages are really common. We seem to deal with them quite often. In some areas, a lot more common than others. We only have 1 or 2 a year here, knock on wood. But just about everybody has to deal with a blackout. And a lot of times, that's an area that somebody on a tight budget just isn't going to ever think to spend any money to be prepared for a power outage. And it doesn't take a lot to be comfortable in a power outage, or at least to be able to get by in a little power outage. So, and a lot of these came from the community as well this week, but a headlamp or a good rechargeable flashlight, that's number one. I love a headlamp. I actually changed out a breaker in my panel today. I used my little headlamp, the Coast brand. I love that thing. I think it's 615 lumens, but a good quality flashlight or headlamp would be great. A rechargeable battery pack for your phones, and you can buy them on Amazon. There's like $10 packs on there. They're not like absolutely, they're not an Anchor brand or an Apple brand or something like that, but they're going to do what they need. The kids or somebody, a new prepper can put a charge in that, and they can throw that thing in a damn drawer, and it can sit there for 2 years and still have a charge when the power goes out. John says, I keep cheap little flashlights hanging from all my home door handles. Absolutely. Do they still make those disposable flashlights? Because my grandmother used to have them. They were about the size of my palm, and they had the little slide switch on them. They were made by like Dorsey or different brands. I don't know what the American brand would be, but she always had them for going around. She grew up in the Depression and through World War II and never wanted to turn lights on in the middle of the night. So she always had those things. And for someone that was super cheap, she never wanted to get a flashlight that took batteries. She always had them damn disposable ones. I don't know if they're still a thing or not, but yeah. And Jaggy says, kits don't have to be for your adult kids. Your kids can get them, also make it appropriate for them and introduce them to preparedness early, and it's a long journey. Absolutely. Yes. And yeah, you could start with young kids as well. But get them started, and then they might have a kit that they can kind of be in charge of. They'd have their own little blackout kit for their bedroom. I think it would be great. And good LED headband style light. Absolutely, Joe. That is, yes, I love those. And of course, my kids all say, Dad, you're a dork. But they certainly love their headlights, their headlamps when the power goes out. Because, hey, I mean, you need your hands for free, or you need your hands free when the power's out, and those headlamps really work. But I want to go back to John right quick. That point was awesome. Keep little flashlights hanging from all my home door handles. I haven't heard that. I'm going to steal that, John. Probably going to do some of that around my house, but that's going to be a tip that's going to go into my teaching down the road, because that is so damn simple. And if you have, maybe you don't have a certain cheap brand that you recommend, but if you do, or a size or even a style, send me a link, because that is awesome. Thanks. I like that a lot, John. That's a great tip. Okay. Rechargeable batteries. So I buy, my kids go through them a lot, and I use a lot of rechargeables, but I buy those great big 64 packs from Costco, and my adult kids still do come and get some of those sometime. So my plan, one of the big items, and I'll give you the list, I'm going to get them, but rechargeable batteries, because kids will spend, or anybody will spend, a ton of money at Dollar Tree buying those Sunbeam batteries that last for 14 minutes, when if they just spent 5 times as much and bought themselves a little 8-pack of rechargeable batteries with a wall charger, they'd probably be a hell of a lot better off. Chris had another suggestion here. I like this one. You can still get the crank flashlights. It helps to find the new batteries for the headlamp. Ain't that the truth? I love those little crank ones. I've got a little crank, I don't know where it is, a crank radio / flashlight here in my shop. Oh, well, this isn't my shop. This is my downstairs office here, but I have one somewhere, and they're great and they're fun. Who doesn't love to crank them up and make that stupid little, I don't know what kind of noise that is, a little generator noise, but I don't know, it makes you feel important. The kids love it. So like I said, rechargeable batteries and a cheap charger. They don't need to be Eneloop Pros that are $5 a battery, but a little kit, a little just starter Energizer kit, or EBL, Amazon Basics, any of those would be great. And if you want to spend just a little more, although I've seen some cheap, but an 800-watt inverter, you can run a lot of stuff off those, and they're pretty inexpensive. Teach them how to hook it up if they have their own car. And it would be, to me, that would be huge, because you're basically giving them a generator for 1/10 the price of a generator, especially if they already have a vehicle. So teach them how to use it, teach them how to hook it up. Candles, we all talked about candles, but again, that's something, unless they're into decorative candles and smelling funky and all that kind of stuff, then they're not going to have any. And I remember, 20 years ago when I was working at Dairy Queen, we had a huge power outage, and I just kind of spent the day going around visiting people, seeing what they needed. And trading off with people. And more people than I care to admit needed candles. So I ended up getting a big box of candles from my aunt, who had a wood burning stove and made me coffee while I was there. It was awesome. And then I went and give people candles. And there's something a lot of people don't think about. John says, about the flashlight, no specific brand, just the ones that take 3 AAA batteries, and you can keep rechargeable batteries in them. Great idea. So I'm going to, that might even turn that into a little 1-minute YouTube short video at some point, because I'd love to get into doing more tip videos there too. But John, that's awesome. I love it. All right. Jaggy, you're full of information tonight, buddy. I love it. And a portable, inexpensive solar charger to charge up cell phone and batteries during the day. Not so great at charging up at night. Ain't that the truth? But they're great. And actually, those little power packs now, the little battery banks, some of them come with a solar panel built into them. Nothing, super expensive, and I'm sure they're not like ultra efficient, but 2 is 1. So now you can have it charged up in the event you need it. But you can also, if it goes dead or you have a prolonged power outage, they can throw it in a window and maybe get enough of a charge to, get their phone up and running and go on Snapchat for 15 minutes, Heavy blankets. That was another one for a blackout kit. Again, kids are really, I stopped saying kids, but it's something that any person who's moved out on their own, or maybe is a new prepper, doesn't think about. But heavy blankets are great because, number one, they can keep your ass warm if it's freezing outside. And if it's a power outage, you can insulate your deep freeze with them as well, and just wrap them in there and just leave it. They're great to have. Next kit, first aid. And so I called this a first aid kit, but I also called it a medicine cabinet kit, because a lot of people don't have a lot of money for stocking up their medicine cabinet. First aid's great, but I'm going to do a video on our first aid system, but we have two great big gasketed Rubbermaids that we keep all of our first aid and what you would call what you would call like a medicine cabinet kit. We keep all in there too. So like all the over-the-counter medicines. And a lot of people either, especially at the holidays and stuff, maybe don't have the money to stock up on some of that over-the-counter stuff. So, use your imagination and do it. But my local pharmacy, they have a deal where you buy, I can't remember if it's 8 or 10, you get a little punch card of their generic brand over-the-counter medicines. And when you do, you get the 11th one free. So look at that kind of stuff too, to kind of stack your money together. Jaggy says hot water bottles. That's actually really good. I hadn't thought of that in a long time, but that would be good for, that would fit into either the Blackout Kit or the first aid kit. So again, to me, I put together this first aid / medicine cabinet kit, but the first one was a metric shit ton of Band-Aids. It never seems to matter how many Band-Aids you get. You buy those big bulk packs and you end up using, the ones that everybody wants are those, the little finger Band-Aids, the ones that go over a cut on your finger. Everybody uses those. So you always have left those little tiny ones that aren't big enough to go around your pinky finger. Or you have those great big odd shaped ones that, fit down between your fingers. So the best thing I would say is go out and buy like 3 boxes of those finger Band-Aids, the normal size, average Band-Aids. Throw them in there. A tube or 2 of triple ointment. I love that stuff. It just seems to work really well. And then buy a great big bottle, the biggest bottle you can afford, of generic brand acetaminophen or Tylenol, and a big bottle of Advil. Costco's really good for that. For us, we go there a ton, a lot to go buy them. And the stuff is so cheap, the Kirkland brand. Throw that in there. A packet or 2 of cold and flu pills. That seems to be something. There's just so many little bugs and things you get that are good to have. And people just don't always think to have that on hand. So throw in a pack of cold and flu medicine pills. Imodium, that's one that my kids have come by to borrow sometimes. Burn cream, something to just treat, burns, of course. And that could go into the next one, the fire prevention kits that I'm talking about as well. And then cough syrup. So either NyQuil or Dayquil, something. It just seems like we're constantly fighting these friggin' respiratory things around here. And we go through so much medicine. Dr. Christopher's. Yes, is that the bone oil? I don't know how to, I haven't used that stuff before, but I'm going to add that to the list because that is recommended. But yes, so, cough syrup, burn cream, Imodium, cold and flu medicine, a big bottle. And I buy generic all this stuff because you know what? The active ingredient has to be the same in any of them. So just compare the active ingredients and the amount of the active ingredient. And if they're the same, there's no sense in buying brand name at all. So then the other one was a fire prevention kit. And this one, I love this one personally. But if I had to eliminate one from the list, it would be this one because it seems to be the least likely to happen. So it doesn't mean that they shouldn't have a fire prevention kit, but I think the first 4 are more bang for your buck, more likely to happen. So they're going to be more appreciative of it early on. But I love the idea of a little fire prevention kit. And there was a few different people that recommended some of this stuff, but some people said fire extinguishers. I personally love that First Alert fire spray. That stuff is friggin' idiot proof. Anybody can use it. It lasts forever. It doesn't have to be recharged. And if you can use a spray bottle, you can use the fire spray and it works. So I prefer something that works and is simple over something that works and isn't simple. Hey, let's see what Jaggy says here. Jaggy is awesome on the first aid. We got to get him on some night. We'll do an interview on first aid. Steri strips, wound closures. If you can't afford to add, cut down the duct tape. Oh yeah, that you have to strip pieces. Also add a good medical book. Even doctors don't know it all without referring to a book. Absolutely. Like, check out the Element. So John, are they the ones that you can, so John mentioned checking out the Element fire extinguishers. Are they the ones that you can recharge with CO2 at home? Because if they are, I've watched some of those videos and I even messaged the company if that's the one, because I would love to get my hands on one to test. So if anybody knows anybody there, I think that's the one, but they're awesome. And I would love, yeah, I definitely would love to try them out. A good CO detector, battery or plug-in, doesn't matter, because what I find when I go in and check on, I do a lot of property management. A lot of times they'll have a working smoke detector, but they don't have a CO, a carbon monoxide detector. And so to me, that's as important or maybe more important. And I don't know exactly whether it's legal or not legal to have one, but damn it, if somebody's moving out on their own, give them a friggin' CO detector, and then at least they'll have one, or maybe they'll have two, doesn't matter. But, and then this one here, this is something not a lot of people think about, but get them a big pack of long lasting or rechargeable 9-volt batteries, because yes. Okay. I know those ones. I seen them at the RV dealer, and they do look really cool, and they last, I don't want to say if they are, I can't remember. Anyway, they have a really long lasting life on them, but I also think the price was quite high on them too, but that's okay. You know, if something lasts forever, I'd be happy with it. Shelf life of a new extinguisher is 12 years. Hey, Dr. Herbalist, how are you? And yes, that is absolutely true. And that's great. Like 12 years. Well, man. And most of them will basically work. And I don't want to overspeak because I'm not an expert on fire extinguishers, but just sitting on the shelf for 12 years, they should still be good. I know at work, we always used to shake them back and forth, but anyway, yeah, I got to get somebody on. There's a guy on the Canadian Prepper podcast that's a firefighter. I'd love to get a fireman on here, or if anybody in the community is one or is an expert in fire prevention, I'd love to get somebody on for an interview, because I'd love to be able to expand my knowledge in that area, because it's an area that I am rather lacking for sure. And Jaggy says, better, whoops, I put that one up there. Better get a battery CO protector. If in a blackout, it will work. Yeah, absolutely. I've got a couple I've been testing out that I really like. I even have a handheld CO monitor that I use for going into properties and stuff, which is great too. But yes, a battery one is awesome for a power outage. And I picked up one from Home Depot not too long ago. It's available on Amazon as well, but it has a 10-year life on the battery. So when you pull that tab, that battery is guaranteed for 10 years. And then you have to throw the machine out. But a 10-year life without having to change out a battery, I love it. And then the last thing for the fire prevention kit I had was a small first aid kit or a burn kit. So again, we talked about first aid, but this would be something more pertain to the idea of, hey, burning you. I remember when I first moved out on my own, dumbass me, I didn't have much to work with. So when you're working with what you have on hand, you end up causing more problems than you probably should. But I ended up picking up some of them glass Pyrex pots. You know, they have a handle, you can boil things in them on the stove. That's all I had. I got like a set of 4 of them. And I didn't have any pans for baking in the oven. So I made some kind of casserole in it. I took it out, had my oven mitt on, put it up on the top of the stove. And then, stupid me, I went to move it later on, grabbed the handle, and absolutely burned the hell out of my fingers. So some kind of burn ointment, first aid burn kit would be great for kids. And I'm going to bring Dr. Herbalist's comment up here. Shelf life on new extinguishers is 12 years. Just so it gets in the video feed too, so people see that, because that's important to know. That's awesome. 12 years, that lasts a long time. So that's the different kits that I kind of talked about. Oh, here we go. Chris has an addition. In addition to any fire prevention kit is a solid escape plan and practice for all in the house. Absolutely. I love that. And I got a little section down here about stuff we can do that's free and maybe, you know, add to our gifts. And so I thought that would be that's an awesome one. Practice, training, because as preppers, we love to buy all the stuff. We love to buy all the things and have all the cool gear. But geez, you know, a lot of people don't bother to take the time to actually use it. Again, going back to my tire repair kit. It's awesome to have a tire repair kit in your car, but if you don't know how to use it, you might as well not keep it in the vehicle. Jaggy says, cling wrap, awesome with burns, and don't put any lotions or potions. Never burst blisters. That makes sense. I don't know why, but it makes sense. I maybe, infection, I think, right, Jaggy? And then Dr. Herbalist says, CO and smoke detectors generally shelf life is 8 years. So that's great. I mean, yeah, again, you put one up, you don't have to worry about it for 8 years. I got to get something a little colder here to drink, guys. Sorry. My Diet Pepsi. So in case you're wondering, like I said, I had probably about 15 or 20 people respond to my my video asking for $100 budget with 5 items or less to put together a kit for new preppers. And I picked the 6 items. I know it was 5, but I picked the 6 items that were listed the most by people, just so I thought it'd be fun to know what everybody kind of suggested. But of course, the first one was either a flashlight or LED headlamp. That was by far, almost everybody suggested that, and that's a great idea. Now, something I haven't mentioned tonight, but this was the next common, was a good quality multi-tool or pocket knife. Now, I love the idea of that, and if I was going more to a new prepper, I would absolutely buy them a good fixed blade knife, a good pocket knife, or a good multi-tool. But where I was more looking for young people who are moving out on their own, I wanted to put it toward absolutely dead practical ideas. And that was the same with the next one. Another one was Life Straw. I started to submit, sorry, Joseph, that's awesome. And I thought that too. And I'm going to give you my list that I decided to put together at the end here, because it was some work. I was sitting in the hot tub the other night and it took me about 40 minutes to put together exactly what I was going to do. But Joseph said I started to submit something, but staying under 100 was way too hard. And it is true. Especially in Canada, where our prices are higher than you guys. It makes everything that much more difficult. The next most common item that everybody listed was a life straw. Again, I love that. And it's awesome if you're going to be, bugging out into the woods or doing bushcraft, or even, I suppose, if you had a boil water advisory or something. But I kind of stayed away from that one. If I was putting together just a hardcore brand new prepper list, I would probably add that. Another one was a lighter or a Zippo lighter. Zippos are a great buy it for life item. Love them. And absolutely, that would be on my next tier of items. Next one was a case of food. A few different suggestions, but some people said soup, ramen noodles, dry pasta, or MREs. I don't know how cheap MREs are in the States, but I could only get about 4 for $100 up here. And that's no exaggeration. And then the 6th item that a lot of people suggested were the crank and solar radios. And I love those things. They're just fun. They're fun to play with. I don't even know if, I want to say millennials, but it's not millennials. Gen Zers, I don't even know if they'd know how to tune in a radio station. But and then I had 3 items that didn't fit into any of these lists per se, but I thought they were awesome suggestions. The first was a good quality can opener. You guys know that I love my Easy Does It American-made can opener. Those are awesome. Number 2, somebody said, give them a grit. Try this again, Tim. Give them a gift of crypto. I thought that was kind of cool, because you could say take 20% of your budget, even though it's not very practical and, they might not get the whole idea behind it, but you give them $20 in crypto and it could be worth $100 in crypto in 10 years or 5 years or a year. It might be worth nothing too, Herbalist, Dr. Herbalist says, sorry guys, the rulings of tools can differ from rural or urban areas. And yes, absolutely. And I had a question about gas storage from a guy earlier this week. And again, my answers to him depended on whether he lived in a rural setting, an urban setting. And it's absolutely true because again, if you live in a really dense urban area, you might not even have a vehicle. So, getting somebody a vehicle emergency kit might not be real practical or, but yes, that's awesome. I had never even thought to put that in there, but that's a great point. What you're going to get somebody depends on where they live and the setting that's around them. Another cool suggestion somebody said was an ounce of silver. Again, to me, I love it. I'm a big fan of precious metals, and I think it would be a lot of fun because there's a 10% chance that you might spark a love for precious metals in them, and they might want to stack down the road when they, maybe have some more money in their pockets and that kind of stuff. But again, in a power outage, a pack of rechargeable batteries or a good battery pack is going to go a lot further for them. But, either way, yes. Jaggy says, teach them how to use a P38 can opener. Many will look at it and say, what the heck is that? And that's what I did the first time I saw one. Becky, my wife, she had one when we first got together. And I said, what in the hell is that thing? and her father was in the reserves, and he'd always used them. And you know what? You can get pretty quick with those things, and they hold an edge for, I don't know why they stay sharp for as long as they do, but man, them damn things, they're awesome. And then, so the idea behind this whole thing, of course, was, $100, 5 items or less. But then I started making my list, and I'm like, you know what? If you wanted to pad your numbers a little bit, there's a bunch of free or nearly free ideas I had too. And I'll try to bust through them for you. But, offer to teach them some skills. So again, I keep using my Victor tire plug kit, but if you're going to give them one, maybe put a cute little certificate that says good for 2 hours of, tire inflation training or something like that. Or, with the booster cables, be like, hey, because, you're not born knowing how to use this kind of stuff. And if you look at somebody and think, damn, they really should know how to use booster cables, then you're mean. You shouldn't. Like, everyone needs to learn. You're not born with the ability to use booster cables or patch a tire or any of this other stuff. And we all had to learn from someone else. So, number one, if somebody's interested in this kind of stuff, man, the last thing we need to do is be a huge dick to them and be like, yeah, here you go. Here's your junk. Go learn to use it, because they're not going to have any interest in that at all. So offer to teach them some skills. Maybe give them a pull-out coupon book or something stupid like that. It'd be kind of fun. Something else you can do is put together a collection of free PDF or audiobooks. Absolutely. Herbalist says you can keep your precious metals. I have no use for them. That's okay. We can absolutely, what do you want to call it? Agree to disagree on that. And that's no problem at all. Anyway. You could put together a YouTube playlist for them. So, and this was something I kind of thought of as I was coming together, but, I love the idea of, okay, maybe you're sending this gift to somebody in the mail, so you don't have the time or the ability to be up there with them to teach them a skill, but you could go and spend a few hours putting together a whole playlist of videos that could show them how to do some of this stuff, all the absolute basics. So I think that would be a lot of fun. If you got a bunch of extra blankets kicking around the house that you're not using, throw them their way as well, because like I said, blankets are great. The two things for me is power outages, so you can wrap yourself up in them. And the other one, of course, is wrap up your deep freeze if there's a power outage. And assist one, I forget how that whole thing goes there, Jaggy, but yes, absolutely. And that is the key, is not just giving somebody the tools, but teaching them the tools of how to use it. That's super important. So after all this, I suppose I should probably share what I ended up deciding on. And my wife doesn't even know this whole list yet, but my goal was $100 Canadian. So I went through Amazon the other night, and 4 of my 5 items, or 5 of my 6, I guess, technically, were from Amazon. And one of them had to come from Crappy Tire, because my favorite product isn't available through Amazon in Canada. Oh, there we are. Jaggy. Yes, sorry. I'll share this first. Watch someone do it, assist someone do it, get them to teach someone to do it. And that is, there's no better process. I'm sure you learned that. Jaggy's ex-military, so he served for a lot of years, and absolutely that. And I think that's the whole mindset, isn't it, Jaggy? Like, that's how you basically, watch, assist, and teach, is the whole mindset behind learning a skill completely. And it works. It works in any aspect of life. So the 5 items I picked, and I'll give you my prices, but and some of these are kind of generic stuff, but I decided to go with a 10,000 milliamp battery pack. You can get a charge and a half to 2 charges on most new phones out of those. And I found on Amazon an INIU brand. I wasn't familiar with it, but it had a 4.7 star review. It was $25 with a $5 off coupon. So to me, $20 for that was great. I would have loved to have put my Milwaukee screwdriver, multi-bit screwdriver in there, but it would have put me over budget. So I picked a cheaper Craftsman one, also made by DeWalt. So I like that, but $15 for the multi-bit Craftsman. And remember, these are Canadian prices. So $15 Canadian is about $3 American. So not really, I exaggerate, but that's how it feels some days. Then I found a rechargeable 1600 lumen flashlight made by Wow Light for $22. Again, it had really good reviews on Amazon. So I'm going to get all these items in and I'll do a review on them. And then the next item was an EBL. So it was actually 2 items together, a 4-pack of EBL AA batteries, and then a 4-pack of AA EBL batteries with a wall charger. So the charger in 4-pack was $22 with a $5 coupon, and the 4-pack of batteries was $11. And then the last thing I added into that was 1 can of my First Alert fire spray because I loved it. And after all that was said and done, I come to $104. So I broke my own rules, but I thought that was pretty damn close. $104. And I ended up getting them a battery pack, a multi-bit screwdriver, a rechargeable flashlight, 8 AA batteries with a charger, and an idiot-proof fire extinguisher for $100. So I thought that was pretty good. So as long as my kids don't watch this, I won't have to change anything. I'll end up getting a review in or do a video on some of these products just to show you guys what I thought. But to me, it was a pretty neat process going through it and trying to figure out what exactly I could get for $100 and how I could spend that money the most wisely to maybe help somebody, the next generation of preppers and that kind of stuff. So I thought that was kind of cool. So then I had this other question. I didn't know if I'd have time to get through. We're only an hour, but I'll take 10 minutes and answer this one too. But I had this from a new prepper, brand new, who just started this summer. He just sent me this question and he said, just wondering if there's any way to safely store gasoline inside the home. I recently lost access to the garage I was keeping my backup gas cans in, and I don't have the garage on the property. Is there any way to safely store about 30 gallons of gasoline inside the home? Don't want to blow myself up or blow up my gas. Yeah. Anyway, so this was number one. I'm probably not the best example to answer this question because I've kept a lot of gas in my garage over the years and I've seen those cans swell up and shrink depending on the heat. But so I chatted with him a little bit. And the first thing that came to mind to me was that prepackaged gas. And I know that stuff is damn expensive. But I mean, all the big box stores have gallons and gallons of that stuff sitting on the shelf, and it has like a 2-year shelf life. It burns cleaner. It's great. Yeah. $104 Canadian is 64 pounds. That's a good deal. I thought so. Hey, I like that. And Dr. Herbalist says rotation. And yes, absolutely. Because, everything in, everything out. But yeah, so I chatted with this guy a little bit through MeWe, and the first thing I said is maybe look at the prepackaged gas because that's a lot safer. Because I never, ever, ever would feel comfortable storing gas in a living area because I did have one of my jerry cans spring a leak last year when it swelled right up. It eventually must have swelled enough times that it split right at seam. And I had this little tiny pinprick of a gas stream shooting right out of it on a hot day. That's not safe. But then sometimes we look at a problem and we think, well, I only see one solution and it's a really bad solution. So I got chatting with him and I said, well, here's some other ideas. Maybe you can convert your generator to propane and store propane instead. I'd be a lot more comfortable keeping a couple of, 20-pound canisters of propane in the house. Well, that wasn't an option because right now they just have an inverter and a vehicle. So then I said, okay, how about a covered porch or a shed or somewhere in the yard? And they were concerned about storing gas outdoors in the winter because where they live, it doesn't quite get as cold as where I am, but down to -10. But those jerry cans are made to go through all of the weather rotations. So absolutely being outdoors in the cold, I would feel way better having them outdoors in the cold than having them indoors in a climate controlled area where you could end up, having a really bad day. So from there, we got talking a little more and I said, well, where can you put them? Anyway, it turns out that there is some space between his house and his neighbor's house that's unused, kind of like an alleyway storage area. And I got talking and I said, you know what? Why don't you do some kind of urban camouflage type thing? I said, just, throw your, what would that be? 6 gas cans over there, maybe put an old crate over top of them, throw an old, weather-beaten, ratty old tarp on top, and then some rotten wood. And no crackhead is ever going to go dig around under a rotten pile of wood thinking they might find 30 gallons of gas down there. And he said he might throw some car parts on top too, but never thought about it. So sometimes it just helps to chat an idea out with a fellow prepper and think, hey, because I know what I do sometimes is I come to an idea, I come to a problem, and I have blinders on, and all I see is this one simple solution. And I'm like, I can't find, my brain won't let me come up with a better suggestion or solution. And so I, chatting with him, we come up with the idea of, for him, I called it urban camouflage, but it would work. If you have nothing better or no other place to keep something than outdoors, then find a way to hide it in plain sight. That's what I think. Hi, Minuteman. How are you? I got, all kinds of notes here. So, okay. Okay. So we got a lot of comments. First one, I'll start with John. So John says, check out the Olight i3T EOS flashlights. I will. Absolutely. Thanks for the suggestion. Now, Dr. Herbalist, he said, question is, why store gas in the first place? Sorry, but I've been prepped for a long time. Well, for him, right now, being a new prepper, and I store quite a bit of gas too, but I also tap into my natural gas and my propane. But one of the least expensive ways to have a really good source of backup power is to have, a 1500 watt inverter and hook it into your car. I remember Stephen Harris always used to talk, and he'd say, listen, you got a $30,000 generator sitting in your driveway, so use it. And it's true. So for them right now, that's the cheapest, most inexpensive way to have peace of mind for backup power. Are there other ways to do it? Absolutely. But, gas is a low hanging fruit for a lot of people. And you know what? I like to keep 3 different types of fuel on hand, or at least 2 plus tap into my natural gas. But yeah. And thanks, Minuteman. I appreciate that. And Jaggy, yes, you kind of hit the nail on the head there, but chewing the fat with fellow preppers are the best way to get other ideas. Absolutely. I had a good friend, Matt, when we lived out on the East Coast, and he was a lobster fisherman. And he said, one of the worst things about being a lobster fisherman was that you worked with the same crew day in and day out, so that you had 3 or 4 guys on a lobster boat. And once you got into a routine, you were efficient, but, in the word of Clark W. Griswold's, father-in-law, washing machines are efficient too. They work hard anyway. But yeah, so basically what he said was, 4 people on a crew, and you might be efficient, but there could be better ways to do things, but you're never, ever going to figure them out because it's the same 4 people all the time. So what he loved to do was once in a while help out on another boat, or sit around the wharf and, shoot the shit with a bunch of other fishermen. And he would get some of his best time-saving, efficient ideas by just standing on the side of the wharf, chatting with fellow lobster fishermen. And it was always the simple things, because we get stuck in our ways and we think, you know what? I know what I'm doing. I'm smart. I've been a prepper for 20 years. I don't need this, that, or the other thing. And for him, it was, that's how he always got his best ideas. And I thought, it doesn't matter how old we are or how smart we think we are. If we're that full of ourselves that we're not willing to sit down, on the wharf and chat with a fellow lobster fisherman and realize, hey, if I hook that nail on the end of my gaff, I might be able to pick things up just a little bit better. Jaggy says, everyone is an expert. No one is an expert. You're never too old or proud to learn new skills. Knowledge is power. Absolutely, my friend. And you know what? I never ever feel like an expert. I always joke. I was like, well, people say, well, you must be an expert, Tim, because you're on the Expert Council for the Survival Podcast. Well, no, I just know some stuff, right? And I think if you call yourself an expert, I don't even know how to explain it per se, but if you call yourself an expert and you poof your own head up, you might as well not be doing it. However, what an expert should be is someone that always wants to share their knowledge with somebody else and always wants to learn from other people. And to me, that's what it should be. So take it for what it is. But the reason that I love to share is because I've learned a lot of stuff. I've made a ton of mistakes over the years. And if I can teach 3 or 4 people, the dumbass mistakes that I've made so that they don't make them too, why the hell not? Because it'll save you a ton, just all the simple little things. Like, for instance, the gas can, expanding. And I'd never seen it before, but I went in there and I could smell gas in my garage. And it was literally, it looked like somebody had taken a needle and poked a hole in my gas can. And you had to actually put your hand in it to feel it, which was a stupid idea, but you couldn't see it. You could just smell it. I put my hand there and I could feel this kind of stream of gas coming out of it. So, if I made a dumb mistake like that, like maybe I should have went in and vented the cans a little bit. I don't know. But if someone else can learn from that, excellent, excellent, excellent. Anyone else have any suggestions or any other questions too? This will be the only live stream this week. Hey, G-Tribe. How are you, my friend? You put thoughtful consideration into your answers and you have experience. That makes you more of an expert than most asking the question. Well, I appreciate that, my friend. That was great. This is Skylar, guys. If you haven't seen his interview, he was on last Sunday night on the live stream, shared his story about buying I love the term turd of a house for 10 grand and turning it into an incredible house and selling it and making enough money that him and his wife are now building their own home from scratch and homesteading. So check that out too. That was awesome. But yes, thank you. Dan W. Hey, Tim, didn't realize you were live. I don't know. A lot of people say that they don't get the notifications or something, but you can always turn those on if you want. But either way, I don't know the exact week we're going to start, but we're going to go to Thursday and Sunday live, especially if I can kick this friggin' throat thing that I got going on here. But I'm thinking probably the first week in December. May take a little hiatus over Christmas. There'll still be content, but basically we'll be doing 2 live streams like this and into a podcast format, which I'm really excited about because the podcast is the audio version of the videos has been doing really well, but these live streams are doing really, really well. So I love doing them. They're the most fun I have all week. I look forward to them every day. I put I shouldn't say a ton, but I put a fair bit of prep work into, putting my notes together so that the live stream has really good structure. But we should have about 2 1-hour live streams, Thursday and Sunday. And then the Saturday weekend workshop will be its own kind of 20-minute episode. And you guys will notice the thumbnails, I redid those today. They now say the workshop on them instead of talking tools, and they've all been numbered. So I went back to the very first. Thanks, Joseph. The live streams are awesome. I'm even getting the Odyssey notifications now too for live. So that means it's working. Good. Because this does go, if you guys are Odyssey people or even Float, and I haven't figured out a good way to monitor all those feeds yet, but it is out there so people can watch them too. And hopefully, maybe, who knows, but I would love to get further involved with the guys over at the Prepper Broadcasting Network as well. And they do live streams quite a bit. So we'll get you guys over there once I can they have a different chat kind of format there. But Jaggy says, thank you. Jaggy says, love your audio casts and vids, Tim. You're a good man, my friend, and please give the girls a hug for me again. I know I've talked about Jaggy before, but we got to know each other on Zello first. And that's an awesome app, guys, if you haven't used it before. Great for keeping up with friends. But we both met through the Survival Podcast community, and we've had lots of good long chats in there, and my girls think the world of him. Here we go. Mike, how are you, bud? Haven't seen you. Oh, my God, we got comments coming in like crazy. I have a van that holds 23 gallons. It's an extra vehicle that's not driven much, but it's always full of gas if needed for a generator. Oh, isn't that awesome? I love that. That is, you guys come up with the best tips, but that's true. Like, I shared a silly little meme the other day, and I had somebody who actually asked me to explain it to them because they didn't understand the concept, and it was awesome because they weren't being smart. They really wanted to learn. But I put out there that one of the worst, the meme said something along the lines of, one of the worst decisions you can make as a prepper is to not stop at the gas station on your way home. And it took me a lot of years to realize that it's just as inexpensive to keep a full tank as it is to keep an empty tank once you have it full. But so that's awesome. So Survival Podcast is awesome. If it wasn't for Jack he would not have got, like, him putting me on the expert council has been what I've what I've used to, I don't even know, to build upon, him giving me that start is what kickstarted me into being able to be a content creator for sure. Okay. So Skylar says, I converted my generator to tri-fuel. Storing propane is a lot more convenient, but you have the upfront cost of the canisters. So I still have both on hand. Great idea for fuel storage, Tim. So yes, before I forget, and this may only be in Canada right now, but there's been quite a few. I thought that was you, Dan. I was sure I knew that was you. And so propane is supposed to be going up quite a bit, at least in my area. Now I went out and I had 2 empty. I actually, I upgraded to 30-pound tanks this year. I standardized because most of my 20s were well past their expiration date, so it's time to get rid of them anyway. I already had 2 30s on my RV, so I thought, why not standardize? So I bought 4 more from Costco, and the price wasn't a whole lot more, but I figured, hey, it gives me 50% more storage, and it basically takes the same floor space to store 20-pound as opposed to 30. And if you didn't know, a propane tank fits perfectly in a milk crate, which makes it really nice for storage, especially if you need to take it somewhere and not roll all over the place. But yeah, absolutely. So anyway, that being said, I went to my local place, had them fill up my propane tanks, and their price hadn't went up yet. So I was like, yes, score one for Tim, because I was able to fill both tanks from empty for $60. And in Canada, that's a great price. Don't 30 do better? Well, Skylar, I don't know that. If anyone else in here knows that, great. If not, that is going to be a Google question that I need to ask later on. I can believe that, but I just love the extra capacity too. And if you have a propane barbecue, what I did with my 30-pounders was I just set it next to the barbecue before I converted mine to natural gas. Got a little longer regulator hose, and that worked great. And our outdoor patio heater, turned out that the 30-pound tank fit in just ever so tightly. So in most instances, a 30 will work as well. So Dan said that propane is up here 40% from this time last year. I think I got lucky. The place I went to doesn't fill a lot of propane, so they probably haven't had to increase their price yet. But either way, every single tank I have is now full to the brim, except for the one that's in my heater that's being used right now. But the other 5 are completely full. So it feels about as good as it can. I like having natural gas as well. I know not everybody could be lucky enough to have natural gas, but the price on that's supposed to sneak up too. And Jaggy says, gas here is at its record. Oh my God. A pound. What do you call that? $1.44 per liter. Oh, wow. So that would be, guys, that's like $8 a gallon. That's insane. Energy prices have gone through the roof. It's crazy. I hear that a lot, and it really makes me nervous. And I am not a negative person. You guys know this. My channel tries to be a bastion of positivity. There's enough people out there talking about doom and gloom and all the, the shit's going to hit the fan. And I get it. It's out there. But if I focus on that, I lose my, collective mind. So to me, but this is something I'm concerned about, is power prices this winter. So let's all, prep, get as much fuel on hand as we can have to help insulate ourselves from the price increase, diversify the best we can. And you know what? I can't promise it'll be easy, but being prepped will help you come out the other side better than people who aren't. And Skylar says, I've heard bigger tanks don't frost up. Not sure if it's true. Well, I've got a guy that I know that works at the propane place here in town. Next time I see him, I will ask him just to see, because I hadn't heard that before. But that absolutely could be the case. And it makes sense. I'm just going to spitball it here, but a bigger volume of fuel would be harder for it to, for the temperatures to fluctuate a lot. John says, have to go, Tim. Great stream. Good night. See you next time. No worries at all, John. Honestly, guys, I could talk all night, but I got it might not be hard. It might be hard to tell, but I don't have much of a voice left, and I'm probably going to fight with it tomorrow because I'm helping the wife at the daycare for the preschool Halloween party. So unless anybody has an absolute pressing question, and if you do, you can always send it to me in email and I'll answer it in the next live stream, or I'll send you a response right away. But I think we're going to end it here, guys. I appreciate it. So 30s frost up less than a 20. I learned that from my propane forge. I knew Chris would have an answer for that. I figured he would. So that is good to know, my friend. All right, guys. I appreciate you dropping in. I love that you'll come and hang out with me in the workshop. Because I know we can spend our time anywhere, but I love that we're building this community. So thank you, guys. And if I had a little more voice left, I would stick around and shoot the shit with you guys for another hour. But we'll work on that. I'm usually not such a whiny little whatever. But anyway, thanks, guys. And as always, what is it? Stay happy, stay healthy, and have a great week.